grew out of community members who saw a need and had this vision that they were able to see to fruition, and see how now we're 50 years down the road and we realize what an incredible effort that was. I mean, you wonder what they would have thought if they came today to see, where it is today and what it's become. I think it probably exceeded all their expectations if they saw this. So Noble is part of a community, and it was created by the community for the community. Most nursing homes are created by companies as a business, and that's not the roots here. This is a community entity that was created by and for the community, by people who cared about the community and cared about the people who live here.
Eileen, she was very involved in the community, and that continues with all the functions that Noble has. As a businesswoman, I of course was in real estate, and Eileen asked me to serve on commissions, groups at various times, but she was always open, was very aware of the importance of Noble. As a part of this community here, Noble is a great asset to the community. But there's people that come from all over the country, to be at Noble. And it's the character of the community here that I feel very strongly Eileen contributed to.
The wonderful thing when you're in a cottage is that you get as much help as you want or need, but you don't get more than you want. It's a wonderful combination. It's a community. It's a community within a community, within the bigger community, the wider community of Salisbury and Lakeville. We've lived in experienced every single section of Noble. We have a good sense of the place, and I can't recommend it more highly to anybody who is looking for a place where you can have your dignity and you can be an individual.
The caring that they give to the community, the folks that live here, the caring that they do is just so wonderful. The outreach program that they do, they have a lot of different things that they do monthly that's open to the public to come here with. That's how Noble gives back to the community. It's just not Lakeville and Salisbury. It's all over that Noble does things for. And Noble has all these cottages too. It's their own community. The people can come and go. They have, their own, it's like their own home. They're very independent.
Over the past almost 3 decades, I have interacted and collaborated on behalf of Sharon Hospital and the rest of our team with Noble Horizons. It has been a very productive time for all of us. The relationship we have had epitomizes what it is to live in an area with small communities that are separated by distance but connected by healthcare. The collaboration between our two organizations has given us the opportunity to allow for our communities to come together in preventive health, sharing physicians, we've shared staff, we have had experts from our end of the spectrum, and it's been a wonderful experience. Something about healthcare changing in terms of technology and new things that can be put to work for patients. A great example is how long a person with a hip replacement stayed in a hospital when I started. It was a minimum of 2 weeks. It was more than 2 weeks. And Noble Horizons, in my recollection, were one of the first to put together a rehabilitation center where community members did not have to spend so much time in the hospital, but were able to do their therapy in a more relaxed environment.
Well, my mother was a real estate broker, and she was a negotiator who had the listing and sold the land to church homes way back when. Wow. And then she ended up living in the nursing wing for 4 or 5 years. And then my Aunt Grace, who moved here when she was 85, lived to be 101 and a half. So I'm very familiar with Noble Horizons. And everybody's been wonderful. I've been asked what was my most memorable moment here. Well, I haven't been here that long, but the first day I was here, I discovered my water heater was leaking, and I reported it to the maintenance department, and Joe was there in a flash, and got a plumber to come, put in a new one, all in the same day.
When I was offered the tour of the grounds and in the different facilities, I couldn't help but feel as if Noble offered every opportunity to accomplish, the missions, feelings that I thought were so important. I can make a difference in any human being's life on any given day. Each day, we put together a meeting each morning where all of the professionals from different aspects of the care that's provided here meet on a regular basis. And it's at that meeting, I think, that really sets the tone for the opportunities that we can provide, the residents here. It's so important that our staff fully understands what it means to provide a person-centered approach. It's about what the resident is able to do, able to participate in, and how they're going to benefit from the thoughts that are created in that particular meeting. And they carry over from day to day. And it becomes a process, it becomes a program, and ultimately results in our mission, where we are part of a creative team thinking along with the resident and not for the resident.
I would say the difference between Noble living and living at Noble and so forth is that we're surrounded by an extraordinary staff. They seem to have been chosen to be the people that will give us wonderful comfort, and they're so thoughtful. And I've been amazed at the way so many of the staff have gone out of their way to be nice to me, to do extra things, to keep me comfortable, to keep me company, and just generally make my life much more pleasant than it would be without them. One of the reasons why I think a lot of us come to Noble Horizons is really to find peace of mind. And it's good to know that we're in a place that's safe, filled with friendly people, not only the staff, but our neighbors, where we know that if things go wrong, there are ways that they can be addressed. And all of these are so easily available here at Noble that really is what I think gives us peace of mind. I would suggest that people in the community consider coming to Noble, because I know I certainly have been very happy here and have enjoyed meeting some wonderful people. I think it's important to realize that Noble makes a real effort to involve the community. Almost all activities were open to the public, and this gives people a chance to get to know us, to find out about activities and see what life would be like if they were to move here. So I don't think it's too much of a change for people to move right from Main Street, Salisbury, right onto the beautiful campus of Noble Horizons.
My mom, Pat Horn, lived at Noble for the last years of her life. And for me, the Noble difference is about the people. And my mom struggled with dementia at the end of her life, which got quite severe by the end, and it meant that she needed a lot of support, not medical support, but personal support, and people who knew how to treat her with dignity and warmth and love, and also to care for her security. And that happened here every day. The people here at Noble And that includes both the people who work here and also the community of people who live here and the families who visit the people who live here. Even when my mom had to live at the end of her life in a very hospitalized setting, which can be off-putting to people who are visiting it for the first time if you're caring for a loved one with dementia. But my mom didn't see that. What she saw was the people who worked here, who were professional, who loved her, who understood her, who treated her with respect right up to the end of her life. I'm deeply grateful for that and will be for the rest of my days.
My name is Josh Brennan, and I started volunteering here when I was at least 21. Okay. I've been volunteering here 12 years. I love it because basically you're helping people who took care of their parents, and now it's generational turn to take care of people who took care of previous generations. The fact that they need someone to be helping them, and they're dependent on someone else to take care of them, where they can't take care of themselves now. That's why they need volunteers to help. My favorite thing is to do is to see the smile on people's faces when I'm done. If I haven't made them smile, then there's something missing. So that's why I do it based on smiles. I'm happy to volunteer.
I met a lot of incredible people. I had been in chorus also, and so I had come and visited and sang a couple times, and I think I played the piano, and I think I had a recital one year here, and so I had been here for that kind of thing, but never really to visit anyone. How when I would come after we would leave, we'd be walking back to the car, and my grandmother would always say, okay, we've done our good deed today. Especially when it was maybe a harder day for some of the residents, we would still say, that was our good deed. We made them happy by coming and sharing our presence with them. And I think that that's a mindset that I still carry with me today about impacting others and wanting to still do my good deed every day.
My mother was a resident here for many years. Finding Noble was one of the best things that I think I've ever done for my mother in my whole life. My mother started out in independent living at this other facility, which had waterfalls and atriums and lots of that she never used. And she just stayed in her little apartment all the time, never made any friends, never had really personalized care. The whole thing felt like an expensive hotel. The big problem was that when she started deteriorating and couldn't walk anymore, she was too sick for their assisted living. And the only place she could be was in their nursing home, which really felt like a hospital. The wonderful thing about Noble that attracted us here, first of all, is that they had another level of care in between assisted living and full-up nursing home that was perfect for Mummy. It was a home-like environment, and an unexpected gift that we had been avoiding for years was a roommate. Mummy made the first friend she had made in 10 years, thanks to having a Noble roommate. And that really enriched her days. It was like Noble almost gave Mummy a second life. She had been so withdrawn in that corporate atmosphere. And there's something magic in the air here. And I really think this place brings out people's best at a tough time in their lives.
When I'd had hip replacement, I went to the same place Superman had been for repair after he fell off the horse. And it was good, but it was so institutional, and I wanted something that was friendlier, something honestly closer to home. Christmas Eve, my husband came to Noble and said, my wife needs to be here, please. And they said, well, actually, we really don't have a space in the rehab, but we do have a place in our memory loss center. I think I moved in, I'm sure it was Christmas Day, and it was the best present. I think that Noble, it's a combination of reasons, honestly. It's the environment, which is so beautiful. And it really makes you feel better I'm sure more quickly than not. It's also the people who are caregivers. I think caregivers are a special group of people anyway, but it seems that Noble has collected some of the nicest people on the planet who are firm but supportive and just plain kind. And I'm sure that sped my recovery, honestly. I didn't feel like eating at all, which is really unusual for me. And one afternoon, the chef came and he said, "Jill Sheffield, you aren't eating, and this isn't good because you have to eat to repair." And he said, "What can I fix for you that will appeal to you and help you recover more quickly?" Now, honestly, can you imagine someone in a large institution coming, the chef, to say, "How can I help you? What's going to make it better?" Really, that was above and beyond. I'm singing the praises of Noble because it's a residential community, but it's also a healing community. And when you're sick, you need different kinds of support systems. But Noble takes great care that your environment is pleasing. Gosh, we even had dogs come and visit on Fridays. Once I started being able to get up and walk around, I noticed there was a cat. This cat had learned to go between parts of Noble, even between floors of Noble. It's just so home-like and so normal. I'm 82 now, and I suppose the answer for me is that Noble gave me the ability to age. Instead of just curling up and dying, they pushed me right back into life, which was great. I think that there was every chance when I first arrived at Noble that I wasn't going to make it. My infection had gone everywhere, and I had no feeling about anything. I just felt sort of like I was just hanging in there. That's not the case when I left Noble.
When I arrived here over in Whitridge, because that was the nursing wing and only had 30 beds, there was no patient here. Beds were made, but the funny story is that they were all pediatric beds. So the beds had to be reordered. We did have full staff as far as having myself and Janet Weir as day nurses. I think most of us who started off in the beginning were here for at least 10 to 15 years working together. I was told I was the first nurse hired, and I'm an LPN. I asked everyone to not call them patients, but to call them residents, because this was their house, and they hired us to work here to take care of them. So they were not patients. It was wonderful working for almost 30 years here at Noble.
Each of the last 10 springs I've taught a class, usually sometimes a novel. We read Anna Karenina, we read Crime and Punishment, sometimes history books. We read Nicholas and Alexandra, we read a biography of Mikhail Gorbachev, and then right now we're reading a biography of Vladimir Putin himself, which has been a really fascinating time, a sad time, but fascinating time to be. Mine are a little more wide open, I think. There's a percentage of people that are Noble Horizons residents, but we also I've always asked Caroline to advertise it wherever we can, and we get people. I've had a number of people who take my class every year who are not Noble Horizons residents. They're just interested in Russia, and so they keep coming back.
I have a different trajectory than Keith had. My first idea was to teach a book that I've taught here at Hotchkiss lots of times, so I did Brave New World, and it was such a different experience reading it with people to whom I didn't have to explain any vocabulary, didn't have to explain anything. In fact, they brought so much more to it than my ninth graders. Clearly they had just such a wealth of experience they brought to it, and I thought, well, I'm not really teaching them. So I switched from after that first class that I would call a class, I switched over and I've been doing what I call guided book clubs, where I have not read the book in advance. The first class we did in person at Noble Horizon, and there were maybe at Hotchkiss. So in 2019, I had a very small group of upper mids, and 6 Noble Horizons residents came and joined the class here on campus. It was great.
I love my high school students. They're terrific students. The Noble Horizons crowd is not the same. They will have read absolutely everything, and they'll come with questions about any page, any paragraph ready to go, and they will have the lived experience as well as the reading experience.
But I think what I'm most proud of is I taught nurse aid training classes. I taught them here at Noble for many years, and then we also had an arrangement with Housatonic High School, and then the students came here and worked the evening shift at Noble to do their clinical. The residents teach us the art of aging because we've had some residents who are aging beautifully. Well, I would say always be opening to learn. You know, no matter how old you are, there's always something you can learn, and that's why, you know, the educational programs they have here, the Lifelong Learning Center, was really a good source for residents to maintain contacts and stay stimulated and keep up with current events and things like that.
You know, the people are so appreciative, the residents are so appreciative, responsive in the moment. That's what I mean, you know, and so, you know, and there are times we would bring out instruments like little bongos, tambourine, and maracas, and they would be dancing, and sometimes Caroline would come in and she would dance with the residents, I would dance with them. It's just a special time, and I don't think it gets any better than that. Wow. So that's one of my joys, and you know, it's the highlight of my day and weeks. I sort of see things differently. I'm for the underdog. I'm for someone who needs. Hopefully, I am, if you will, the Good Samaritan that binds up the wounds and that, you know, and gives respite and comfort.
That's what true living is all about. Sure, it sort of takes you out of yourself, doesn't it? And it takes you to a good place.
I never think of aging. I never think of myself getting older, and all of a sudden one day it dawns on me that I have gotten older. When I look at people, they don't look any older to me than they did 10 years ago. I just don't think aging is that important. As long as you're healthy and can do what you want and enjoy life, that's the important thing, is just make the most of what you have and enjoy yourself. Whether it's at Noble or in your own home or with a family member, whatever. Make friends, have company, enjoy yourself. Don't be alone. That's the hard thing for anyone, I think, being alone. Eileen, she would meet with them and she would explain to them that now this is your home and use it as your home. This is your home and you're to enjoy it as your home. And she stressed that, and she made sure that nobody was alone in their rooms.
Well, I'm a firm believer that you should support a going concern, that institution like Noble Horizons has developed a reputation in the community which makes it a very important part of the Salisbury-Lakeville area. It needs to continue that mission, and like any institution, there are times when it needs refurbishment, grading, and sprucing up, if you will. The financial support of people who have a feeling about Noble Horizons is extremely important for the future of this institution. My mother and father were
I would say, key to the founding of Noble Horizons, because my father was chosen as the lawyer for John and Ethel Noble, who were the benefactors who actually provided the funds to begin Noble Horizons. And this was just a wonderful opportunity for my parents to really do something very, very special for the community. At the death of Mrs. Noble, they had an opportunity to actually become totally involved in founding Noble, and that was deciding where the property was going to be with other people and what the buildings were going to be like and what Noble Horizons was to become. When I moved back to Salisbury after a period of time, I was invited in I guess probably 15 or 20 years ago to become a member of the auxiliary board. I have a double reason to be very involved in Noble. And then in addition, in terms of family, my mother was here for 20 years in a cottage, and then she spent 10 years in nursing care here. So 30 years of her older life have been at Noble. And then my sister, one of my sisters, was here for 15 years and also had a wonderful experience and was very happy here on this campus. And now I have another sister who's here at the waiting list. Yes, and I am also on the waiting list. More recently, in the last couple 3 years, I've now been president of the board. Again, it's special in my mind because my mom was the first president. And now I feel like in some ways I'm trying to follow through on what the mission statement from the early days, the very first mission statement. But volunteering at Noble has always been very key. And again, it has a lot to do with bringing people onto campus. I think that is such an important thing at Noble because it's wonderful to be in a place where there are people of all ages coming onto campus and doing different activities.
The staff is amazing, and they make it feel like a home, not a place where somebody goes to live out their aging years, but a place where my brother really feels like Noble is his home. He knows everybody there, and they all know him. I think he's been there for about at least 10 years, and maybe 15. And he started off in Wagner, but now he lives in Rye. I've seen staff come and go, but it's always the same quality and the same caring. When you're older, sometimes people treat you like you're not even there. I mean, I've experienced it myself, where a nurse will be talking to my daughter as if I'm not in the room. And that is so not Noble. I mean, all of the people who live there are treated like human beings. It's really quite remarkable. It's really great about Noble is the way it's part of the community. It's not just for people who are going there to be taken care of. There are so many activities where the community comes in. And so it feels like very much a part of this community. And it's a great community. It's a great resource for us.
People who come to the cottages find a different way of aging than those who instead have gone to warmer climes, staying here and being able to manage their own homes, because the cottages are very much their homes and they're able to bring their own things there and feel very much at peace there. It really is a different way of looking at how they age, rather than leaving a place that they've loved and volunteered in and had friends and family in. It prolongs their lives as they've known them. I've known so many people who have been leaders in the community, really, who, there's always that option of leaving the area where you've spent most of your life rather than staying there, especially in the north, where it can be challenging if you're in your own home. So really, it's given opportunity for people to remain part of the community who have volunteered and known so much about the community over many long years to keep their knowledge and enthusiasm here. I guess that my thoughts on the cottages being able to be a next step for people who leave their homes really describes for me a different way of aging and making it an art, in that you still have friends around you, you build new community around you, and have a new life, and yet still are part of the community where you lived before. So
she passed away, and my dad had gone back to the house in town and lived there for 7 years with me back and forth with him. But as his health began to deteriorate, and he was in his late 80s by this time, we brought him over to stay, had a room in the Riga wing. So I knew the Riga wing at Noble very well, and it was a blessing to have it available for my parents, especially for my father. My mother wasn't there that long, but my dad, who spent between 2 and 3 years in his room, I'd originally tried to have home care for him, but I found out one of the problems with home care is it leaves a person sitting there with one other person for most of the day, and there's not enough interaction. So it was one of the smarter moves I ever made. It was tough to convince him to come back, but once he got here, I think even he began to realize it was far better than sitting home with one other person. The people were terrific, but it is isolation, you know. Often had lunch with him there or dinner, and he brought him home for dinner, but none of that had to change here at Noble. I mean, I came in 1 or 2 times every day, could take him home for dinner anytime I wanted. They were wonderful about it. It was really an ideal existence for a person as old as he lived to 91, and as he was in those last few years, his ability to get around was becoming more and more difficult, but I couldn't have asked for a better situation for him.
I loved to be with the residents that needed care the most. They loved the old music. They would dance to Frank Sinatra with their feet or their hands. Even if they were in a wheelchair, their feet would be tapping away. They loved to draw. They loved colors. They loved the old movies on TV, which they would watch. Just to be there with them and reminisce. You learn so much from them because they lived in yesterdays. They're not living in today, and I just love to listen to them talk and give me their stories. Nobody did not have a nice outfit on. Women had hair combed and necklaces on. Eileen ran a tight, loving ship. She loved her staff, she loved her residents, and she would come around. I loved it because she would come around and see everybody. It's not just me giving to them, they gave so much to me. Every day was an adventure.
And I've been at Noble Horizons for greater than 20 years. There's been a lot of changes in healthcare, that's what I can say. Noble has changed, healthcare has changed, and I think Noble has made appropriate adaptations to the changes in healthcare specifically, and is our COVID outbreak that we had 2 years ago starting, and that we haven't had any COVID cases in the facility when the acute phase was occurring, which I think is remarkable. We did a great job keeping COVID out of the facility, and that's a big tribute to the staff. Yeah, staff have all stepped up to the plate to work overtime, to cover shifts, even some nurses, LPNs working as nurses' aides to cover CNAs that have been out with COVID or COVID symptoms in their families.
I knew that coming here, working for Eileen, I would learn so much, and I really wanted to learn more and do more. And it had such a good reputation as a caring place. The first thing that Eileen Mulligan would say is, "You are in our residence home." And that's what you always have to remember. And she would tell all the staff that year after year that this is their home and we're guests. I think the art of aging is extremely important, that we all recognize how people change over the years, and they bring so much valuable insight to things. Even if they're having memory issues, they can come up with something and you know it was from their life in a prior decade perhaps. But I've enjoyed seeing how much we've tried to keep in touch with people's mind, using the physical, the spiritual, food, the parties. Everything that we do here is around the residents.
She, I think, took it upon herself to think that she was going to teach me how the not-for-profit world worked.
Started in '76 until I had a career change in 1988-89 when I became a director of St. Francis Hospital in Hartford, Connecticut department. At that time, I still was on the emeritus staff. All of the physicians who took care of patients at Noble or admitted them to Noble, to the 2 units, attend a meeting once a month to discuss any issues or problems that they had. And that's why this facility is very unique. The care of the patients at Noble was a very personal one. I personally had a close friend who eventually was admitted to Noble, and she lived until she was 99 years old. Really thought of Noble as her home. A number of our friends have come and lived at the cottage, and the one thing about Noble since we first opened is that it's a step up unit, not a step down unit.
Extremely progressive in the way she thought of things, very studious of the trends in the industry, and always looking to advance technological applications here at Noble Horizons. And I think that over the 21 years that I worked with her, I think she was successful in doing that. And so she was very much ahead of the curve. And she kept people, or kept people around her that were interested in that as well. I think true to the Church Home's mission, Eileen probably was one of the most dedicated to it in that she always tried to keep people at the least restrictive level of care. So Avery Heights in Hartford was an innovator. Noble Horizons recognized that and wanted to do the same type of thing out here. So it was modeled after that. Now almost everybody does that.
In moving to Noble, I have found, and I know other people here have found, that they were able to do whatever they wanted to do in the community at Noble, in the community at Salisbury. There's nothing to hold us back. And I know specifically some people who have, including us really, who have done some things either to the cottages we live in or on the grounds or whatever that I'm not sure would have been available to us anyplace else. We obtained a dog. We had put down a dog before we moved. We made a commitment to take another one after we made the move, which we have done, and that has been a very smooth transition. Noble gives you the opportunity to do anything within reason that you want to do here, and that gives us each the individual opportunity to do an artful process of aging to the extent that we can do that.
I think it's a great place to work. I would recommend it to anybody. A lot of great people here to work with. You know, we have a really good crew now, so it might make me stay. So, but, you know, we have a good crew. Enjoy coming to work now, working with all the guys I work with. The cottagers, they're great. I become friends with all of them. I do take them out to the casinos and stuff like that, and they'll have me over to their cottage for dinner or something, or they'll have us out to the cottage for lunch.
Here, the beauty was the way it was set up. Once you were here as long as you wanted to be, and you would be taken care of throughout your older years in life. You never had to worry about leaving, and your family didn't have to worry about you being put out. You were here as long as you needed until you either chose to leave or until you just died. It was your end of life place, and it was wonderful. It was amazing how Eileen made this such a huge part of the community. As I said, when I first was aware of Noble, just a nursing home in a swamp on a back road, where me and my brother used to play war and cowboys and Indians down here in the swamps. Now there's this place here. When I got here, I was just amazed at the place and the impact it has in the community. She built this facility over a half a century. She built this facility into what it is today, what it was at its best time of all. She built this place, I would want to say single-handedly. Everything here has her stamp on it. It's down to the placing of bushes and placing of flower beds and trees. Everything here has her stamp. She worked very hard at this. She put her soul into it, her heart into it, her life into it, and she did an amazing job here. Eileen, without Eileen, this place would not exist.
Noble is just a wonderful place for someone to come and stay or visit. And if you're at the end of your life, it's a wonderful campus because they take care of you. They take such wonderful care of you. They are such caregivers over here. I have just noticed that even the people that drive patients around, they are just wonderful people.